Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 15th, 2024 at approximately 4:31 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose. That is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every movement I make by. Now, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of other people over the course of my career, with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, this week we are continuing on with aliens evolution as we know it. In this case, part 2. But before I get into it, I do want to say, Woo Rider, welcome aboard. You are in with the gold. And then we scroll down. LA, how you doing? One of the primary moderators we've got here. And honestly, she keeps a pretty close eye on my own physical health at the same time. Then we have Nathan from the Quantum Show. He is in with the silver. He is also one of our moderators. How's it going there, Nathan? Glad you could join us. What are you listening from work? Yeah, you're always busy, aren't you? But that's okay. It was a really good show the other night with you as well. And that said, guys, if you get a chance to drop in on Nathan's Quantum Show on Saturday night at 7 p.m. PST, the panel at 9 p.m. PST, drop in. It's usually got a lot of really interesting ideas in it. Joe Stewart, you are in with the bronze. How you doing? And here is Storm coming in, and he's the brains behind the technology here. Because rest assured, if it was up to me, we'd be in serious trouble. So thanks so much for that, Storm. And by the way, the moderators have already been asked to deal with a number of things. So with this being, we're aiming for it being a safe place for everybody. Okay. The reality is, if you want to get mad at somebody, that would be me. Because I'm the one that asks the moderators to remove the problem children before I have another stroke. I figure one is enough in a lifetime. Now, yesterday we were talking about the order in which different alien species had arrived. Now, there were some that we missed. Okay. And we haven't even gotten into the ancient races yet. But I wanted to cover one other little detail. And honorable mention goes to Anthony Sains. And I hope I pronounced that right, Anthony. If not, hopefully you'll forgive me. Financially, things are stressed, but I did just get all my bills paid off to date. So that worked out well. Now one of the biggest concerns that people, before I go there, one of the earlier races that got to Earth, of the alien races, were the Moldocs. They came in bringing the Laborians with them, and these are races that are contained inside races of the world. Okay. And I hate when I do that. That'll be this book. Where are we? Now, the Moldok, when they arrived, they brought the Laborians, and they ended up bringing some of the Kinlar. So they've been here. There's a lot of ancient races on the planet. Okay. So with that in mind, we will get to some of those in a bit. But what I did want to cover, people have asked me multiple times, how does and what kind of finances does it, what kind of pay scale does the consortium work with? Now, for some reason on Earth, and this is the same thing that many, many, many generations have gone through. Okay, depending on where you are in the world, your money is not worth as much as the next person's. Now, the consortium solved the problem. They don't work in financial pay. They work in man hours. Okay, and what they do is they figure out how long it takes the average qualified person to do a job. And how many hours it takes. Then you get paid, you get logged what your man hours are. So if you're not doing the job well, they'll just fire you. Okay. But they base it on how long it should take. What this means is no matter what your race, no matter what your species, your gender, your orientation, you get the picture. You're going to get paid the same. Now, this is a method that would be nice for the human race to adopt. And sooner or later, they will get to it. But here's the kicker. Every species I know of has done the same thing. They've gone through the same battles. Okay. And eventually they got it worked out. But that takes time. Now, of course, we discussed the issue of disclosure. When are the governments going to come out and tell you we've got aliens on board? Think about that. If, as the internet tells me, roughly 62% of the American population believe that we're already being visited, why do you require the government to tell you? Now, I just take a look at that as a sample, as if you will, a quantifiable sample, and go, that's the way it is around the world. Some places will be higher, some places lower. But the consortium works it out and says, you put in 1 hour's pay, 1 man hour of work, you get 1 man hour of pay. That way, you work a lot, you work more, you get to make more. Where do we go here? LA is asking Keith, do the alien peoples have to pay for healthcare? The neat part there is it's a weird setup, but the short answer is no. Okay, in that aspect, the consortium, as far as I gather, and I'm not sure about the human equivalent, but I believe that they are set up as humans would call it, socialist, where your housing and your medical are covered. Okay, but that's all that's covered. You have to deal with the food. Housing, by the way, covers your power, covers the water, that sort of thing. Okay, but you want any benefits? Now understand, their idea of newscasting is on closed circuit TV, if you will. They go, here's the events we desire to tell you about. They, like humans, do not tell you everything going on. Yeah, I just got to double check something here. Lou got gold. Nathan got, no. Lou got gold. Where did? Oh, Nathan got silver. Joe got bronze. And and Anthony got honorable mention. So, the reason I checked that is because I see Renee Andrews has just come through the door. Glad you can make it, Renee. Hopefully things are going well for you. No. The reality of it is this. Okay, and I think it's the socialist political setup that covers all of your medical, all of your housing, and they just arrange it. If you desire luxuries or a bigger house than the basic, then you gotta work for it. Okay, and by doing that, everybody stays covered. Now, here's the thing: in many communities that are tied to the consortium, there's a simple rule: if you get crippled beyond the ability to work, you're turned into food or into power. Bearing in mind, food is power for the corporeal body. So what they do is, if you're broken but can be repaired, then they'll keep you alive. If you're not going to be viable, then they will terminate you. And the level of doing that depends entirely on the individual species. Of course, that's the individual species in their own region. On the consortium, like on the flagships, or in consortium space, you follow what the consortium has laid out as acceptable. Okay, because some jobs you just don't require all your limbs for. But you gotta realize that things are shifting up there as well. But it boils down to 1 man hour equals 1 man hour of pay. But they don't charge. Where it comes to medical, the thing you got to realize is they develop medical that works. First of all, that works. Second of all, they don't turn around and go, oh, let's make this medication. We're going to charge the poor people through the nose. This is the other flip to what they do. They do collect taxes. Absolutely, they do. And no, they don't bother telling you this is a voluntary tax. This is the tax you pay for having the basic amenities. It's that simple. But here's the kicker. Okay. If you go in, and what they do is they say, okay, if you're at a certain income level or up to a certain income level, they don't worry about the amount of tax you're making. Okay. They look at you and go, yes, we're paying you, but I'm just going to throw a number out there. 5% of your work, 5% of what you're making gets put back to the government to handle the society. Now, if you pushed yourself to the point where you're making millions, like some of the millionaires today, okay, the government looks at it and goes, okay, yes, you're making millions. So first, we'll charge you 5% as a basic run. But as you're making more, they will turn around and they'll look at the millionaires and go, okay, now you're making X amount. Let's say they go, now you only require, say, well, let me think here. Brain box. I'm just trying to do a little bit of calculation for you. Okay. Now, let's say they've worked out the price and you're going to be paying, people it costs to just put a standard house with standard medical, standard power. Let's say that costs $2,500. Okay. So if you're making, and that's a month, okay, if you're making that, then you're paying the 5%, period. But let's say you've worked hard and now you're making 5,000. Well, here's the kicker. Okay, they've got, right now what they're doing is they go, okay, you're making 5,000. So you're paying 5% of what you made is going back to the community. The reason they don't up the tax break as you get older, as you get higher income, is because the person working for higher income is putting in more hours of work, and sometimes that's mental, sometimes it's physical. But they're putting in more hours of work. Therefore, by their efforts, they're earning it. Why? And the consortium looks at it and goes, why punish the person for working harder? That's where things get started. So, basic medical is free. What isn't free and isn't even subsidized is literally if you're going after cosmetic surgery or elective surgery. And bear in mind, weight loss, yes, it affects some other species. But weight loss, they are far more interested in educating you on how your body works. However, if your body has a hiccup that cannot be controlled by diet, then it gets included in the medical if it's going to keep you working. If it is simply, let's say, I desire to lose 100 pounds, I desire to drop it, but I don't want to take the 2 years to do that. So I'm going to elect to get a surgery done to bring my weight down. That is something you pay for. If it's something where the doctor turns around and says, no, there is no way diet's going to work. Joe, what is classical reality? And this is what Joe Stewart is asking. In my opinion, I'm going to look up something here. Hopefully I won't screwball things. But in my opinion, classic reality is the accepted reality that the majority of people may use. I'm just seeing if it actually gives a better definition here. On the internet, by the way. Oh, okay, that's cute. Now, I will tell you this one, just looked up on the internet, does not say that. My opinion is literally that's what it boils down to. But if I go to the internet, it says, it literally says here, the theory of everything attempts to connect quantum theory and relativity. It is, it's fair to say the theory seeking a status of a theory of everything must also be able to account for intelligence. In other words, it's a complicated setup. I look at it going, if the if the majority of people accept that's reality, then that's classical reality. But that's my opinion. It really boils down to a philosophical outlook. But when we look at medical, the consortium is far more focused on proper education and teaching accountability. Now, when you're looking for medical, the Pleiadians are definitively the hotspot. They're the ones that know what they're up to on almost all levels. Although they still have trouble explaining how humans can defy them. When, pray tell, because that's annoying. I'm literally just taking a quick peek. Yeah, I got up at 4 o'clock this morning, grabbed an hour's nap between 8:30 and 9:30, and here we are again. You know, all in all, when we look at the consortium, they are far more focused on the idea of equitable compensation, but they do not differentiate between if you're living on the street, which by the way they don't permit anyway, or if you're choosing to live in a mansion. That's your call, but it doesn't make you better than anybody. Now, when we start looking at the Grand Council, the Council of 12, they literally have 3 tiers. Okay, now here's the qualifier for that. They have in the main council, they have 12 people, all of which are of different species. Not one pair will be in there. This is to avoid other species coming in, any species coming in, and getting a dominant control factor. Okay, now that's the first tier. Second tier, they have 12 other members, okay, that are literally, none of them will be a species that is in the top tier. Okay, then you've got a third tier, also of different members. Now, here's the thing. Each level of government, each level of Council of 12, okay, provides a total of 36 independent individuals, 36 Grand Council members. Oh, there we are. Joe goes, okay, the reason for that question is the 1987 movie, Donald Pleasance. Alice Cooper, I cannot read that. Oh, Alice Cooper played Prince of Darkness. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I did not actually watch that movie at all. Okay, but many of these science fiction movies or these science fantasy or whatever you want to call them, many of these movies touch on things that the human race should pay attention to. Now, if only we could get the human race to pay attention to it. Nate, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Just to be clear, since I honestly don't recall seeing you here before, and therefore, if you have been, sorry about that. If you haven't been, welcome aboard. In my world, I split extraterrestrials, or if you will, aliens, into 2 groups. Off-worlders, what you would call extraterrestrials, they come from off-planet. They arrived here from somewhere else. And ancient races, which evolved inside the realm of Earth. Okay, many people call Earth, Mother Nature, Gaia. I call her Ita because that's how she introduced herself. See, the thing is this. With the consortium, you got to understand, they developed a policy they turned around and said, okay, we've got 2,600 plus species involved. There's going to be differences. So what they said was, okay, you've got your little neck of the woods. You got this solar system you're in control of. No problem. You handle that in your area, make up your own laws. When you leave your area, now is the time to follow the laws of the consortium. Okay, in the case of a planetary war amongst the local denizens. Okay, not a problem. Thanks so much for dropping by, Nate. Hopefully we'll see you again. When we take a look at it, okay, the consortium came in And they went, okay, this has to be an equal setup, an equal system. Now, to be clear, we go way back to the beginning of the consortium, and it was literally the Zerziks that started it. Okay, now you gotta remember the Zerziks are a race that first and foremost actually come through on transitions. These are the same people that handle the Akashic records. So they came along and said, okay, we've been around this long. Here's how we're going to do it. In consortium space, you follow these guidelines. In your solar system, follow your own. But what they also said was, we're not going to be, we're not going to step in on planetary conflicts. Okay, planets have to find a way to become a member of the consortium. They've got to find a way to literally build a one world government. Now, I will get to that before the end of the show. Okay, as to what a one world government is. And it is not like you've been taught. Okay, but the consortium went, okay, in your own solar system, you handle it. But if you're having a planetary war, don't ask us. You guys sort it out. We're not touching it. When it gets beyond once a planetary war, or once a planet has attained global unity, as in a one world government, then the consortium will look at it and go, okay, now you've got that. Now we'll look at bringing you into the actual community. But that means your planet is the one that is controlled. Okay? In the event that you're now expanding beyond Earth, and understand humans already have. Okay? Humans have literally already arrived at Mars. This is not they're just getting ready to send men. They've already done it. Okay? Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. But be prepared. Odds are you're going to have to wait 20 or 30 years to find out. Now, I would like to know why I'm dizzy, but I'll figure that out down the road. Okay, so once a planet has attained global unity, okay, a one world government, that's when the consortium will extend an open hand and say, okay, now let's bring you into our interstellar community. And here's the rules. Now there's 3 laws that are enforced in the consortium. Actually, there's a lot more than that. I personally only follow 3. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Okay, by following those laws, what you actually will find is your world stabilizes a lot more readily. Okay, now, on an individual planet, the laws of that planet hold dominance. In other words, if jaywalking is punishable by death on your planet, then so be it. Somebody jaywalks, you get taken out. In the general consortium overview, in their control space, this is not the way they do it. But they won't stop you from doing it on your planet. Okay, and yes, here's a neat thing. People in all of these different species, the consortium included, can work and do work for the government. Okay, but they get paid the same way as the private sector does. Okay, very important you realize this. Because the one thing that you gotta realize is, in their eyes, 1 man hour is 1 man hour. And I'm talking about bands simply because, well, I'm not going to list off all the other options. And rest assured, humans only have 2 genders. There's a massive argument there, I know. And this is why I'm willing to accept the third really rare one, which is the hermaphrodites. According to the consortium, what you guys call gender is up to you. They are far more interested in whether or not you are following their laws. And we're not talking their divine laws, because that depends on religion to religion. Okay, so they look at it going, as long as you're adhering to their laws, no problem. Conflicts in consortium space get dealt with by consortium law. And by the way, no, a politician does not, nor does big business, by the way, politicians and big business or big money do not have they do not have this idea of, we know exactly what we're doing. Okay, they are not infallible. Might be something to consider. Okay, and by the way, guys, if you have a question as we're going along, absolutely ask. Okay, and in all fairness, it doesn't matter what topic you're looking at. Ask anyway. Some topics I will do my best to answer. Others I just flat out will tell you I'm not answering. But what I won't do is go, oh, I've got the answer. It's in one of my books. Read it. Buy it. That ain't the way I operate. I'm having fun. Not. Okay, so from their standpoint, it's very simple. You're putting the effort in, that's great. Now, the consortium has this neat little idea. Everybody that can work does. There is no social services per se, because if you can push a broom, and that's all you can do, you're pushing a broom. They did, by the way, come to an understanding quite some time ago. Technology is a wonderful boon. It really has a lot of useful abilities. But it is not a replacement. It is a tool. Okay, what I mean by that is, yes, even they figured out you can make technology to wash all the walls and wash all the floors and what have you. Problem. When you develop technology too far, people get lazy, mentally and physically. Okay, and that creates a problem. So what the consortium did was they did build up to the point where everything was automated. Okay, everything was automated, but it created a problem. Now, the Lemurians on Earth here 50,000 years ago had the same problem. They had developed the ability to manifest something in the palm of their hand just by thinking. They got bored with that and went back to basic artwork. Unfortunately, they got wiped out before they actually got down to a fine art. I do find that fascinating. Yep, I left my water up front. I'll go get that in a little bit. The neat part about it is they figured out that no matter what height you were, what your physical configuration was, what your mental process was, the consortium figured out that every individual is equal. Okay, but they do relish physical work as much as mental work. And by the way, you'll love this one. The other thing, yes, the consortium has a government, but what you've got to realize is they do not see people working in the government as anything special. It's just another talent. And that's how they treat it. You know, one of the things we have to realize here is we are going through the same thing that, as far as I'm aware, every member of the consortium species is, or more to the point, has gone through the same thing. You know, with that in mind, what they end up doing is going, okay, here's the framework of what everybody can be given for free. Okay, you live in this environment, you got this much power to work with. They lay it all out. If you've got more money than that, than what the basic will do, there's all kinds of places where you can move to. But that's when you're still, by the way, getting a certain amount. Like, we'll go back to $1,000. If on assistance, because you can't work, if it costs $1,000 to run your house, okay, we'll go with $2,500, which is what I pay. If it costs $2,500 to run your house, every member of the consortium, and I don't mean every species, I mean every member of the consortium gets that $2,500, as it were, to live throughout the year. You want more than that? Work. Okay, they don't deduct that initial amount, because they look at it going, okay, if you're putting in these hours, that's great. That covers the basics. You desire more and more finances, more stuff. Go out and work harder for it. Okay, that's where it becomes the real big difference between the consortium and Earth. Now, I don't see my water. I got my coffee, but I'm going to take a break here and go wander up front and grab my water. But I'm finding it's kind of an odd setup. So I will be right back. That'll be.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's
Don't get carried away. Just came into a little bit of a family hiccup, so be right with you.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Well, as we know, guys, in my world, family first. I'll be right back. Hey, this time I am actually back. Okay. I still got a munchkin that's a little under the weather, so he gets first dibs. Now, what do we got here? Nobody that I have to worry about. So, the consortium itself is very much geared towards the idea of we take care of everybody. And yes, there are wars that go on, and get this, guys, you end up going into the military. Okay, number one, they don't go, you only have to put in, a few years. Once you go into the military, and that's a voluntary thing most of the time, okay, if you go into the military, you're committing to a lifetime. But that said, they do put you in for a number of years, and since I didn't join the military, I don't know specifically, but what I do know is when you're done with your term in the military, they make sure you're taken care of. Okay, not they honestly don't turn around and go, oh, because you were in the military, you're more special than anybody else. They go, you put your time in, and you got wounded. Therefore, we're going to make sure that you still got the basic coverage. Okay, you will not find in the consortium, you will not find homeless people or people that are starving to death, because it's all taken care of. And like I said, this whole idea of, you're allowed to work more than what they give you and thereby get a higher income. But that's the thing. You make more money. Even if you make more money by saying, okay, I'm going to open a company, I'm going to start I'm going to hire a few people, I'm going to pay them in man hours. But if you're paying in man hours to get a job done, a given job will take less time overall. And that's where they make the money, where the companies make the money, is by literally doubling up on their workforce. And the neat part there is that's how to get ahead. Okay, this world doesn't work that way. At least not from anything I've seen. But what you will find with the consortium is really wonderful. Okay, they turn around and everybody, if you do 1 man hour work, if you're 5 years old and you go and you start working, you get paid 1 hour for every hour you work. Understand, they do not look at you and go, at X age, you have to be working. The consortium does not have an actual age limit that you have to start. Individual communities will say, this is when you're able to start working. Humans, that would be at 13. Okay. Now, some kids can start earlier, depending. Okay. But the consortium guideline is this. If you're 13 years old and human, you're working. Now, there are races that need to be a lot older. And some of the more quickly maturing races may get testy about it. Okay, but it's all laid out very clearly, and there are no exceptions to it. Except, well, there is an exception. If you are physically and or mentally not capable of working a regular job, this does not mean you get terminated. It means you get taken care of. Okay? Because what happens if you're damaged to the point, if you're bored and you're crippled to the point you're not mentally going to be able to compensate or contribute, they will, if they figure that out, they will do one of two things with it with a mentally handicapped child or physically handicapped. They will either send them off, and you're not going to like this part, they will send them off to a lab for medical experimentation. Okay, but the thing is, they do that to work on humans with humans. They take laborian children to work on laborian-based medicine. Okay, they don't bother trying to administer drugs to a chia pet in order to find out what a thunderbird is going to react like. That's just the reality behind it. Now, the neat part about all this is the consortium has set things up. If mankind were to emulate it, you would find a lot less struggle. Okay, you may not like it, but that's okay. This chat room is literally designed in a similar fashion. Doesn't matter who you are, you get treated the same way. Okay, now, the difficult part is when we start looking at certain aspects of society. 1 man hour is 1 man hour paid, period. That is across the consortium. Okay, there are still races, there are still species that use actual currency. Whether it's gems, whether it's coins, whether it's stones, doesn't matter. Different species use different things in their own area, but the consortium itself does not. It uses man hours, and that's all it uses. Now, you may get, for instance, when we talk about averages, when we're talking about a courier, okay, they take a look at the standard way of working as a courier. But they go, okay, it's going in this distance. In the case of delivery, they look at the distance that a courier is traveling, not the length of time it takes to get there. Okay, this is just the reality behind what they're doing. Okay, the other thing you'll find is when we look at diet, the consortium does not say you have to eat this meal, because with 2,500 different species, yes, there are some similarities, but they are not static lines. Okay, so that's one thing they have absolutely automated. Okay, they have, as humans now have 3D printers, the consortium has 3D organic printers, meaning they can produce food and or food and or technology for, well, that went completely sideways, so since I lost the thought, I'm just going to drop it. Joe's going, there's not been any activity at night back there in a while. He goes, I just find that, and this is Joe Stewart. He goes, I just find that odd. I don't know what happened. There should be something back there. Well, the thing is, they take a break from now and then. Part of it may be, Joe, and I'm just saying may be, that they know you've been paying a lot of attention. And I'll tell you, Talons are one of the more paranoid of the races. Not nice people, in my opinion. However, make your own call on that one. Okay, now the neat part about it, there's where I was. The consortium does have 3D bioprinters, meaning if you require food, when a new species joins the consortium, they go to the consortium officials, go to the text, go in and program the new foods so that no matter what species you are, you can get what you require. Now, granted, it's not necessarily the most flavorful, but it is, nutritionally speaking, it is edible and designed for the taste palette of the individual race. Okay, now picture, if you will, and this is not what they use, but picture, if you will, a push button system. Okay, and you literally can check out, you do a search to find the race of the species for the food you're looking for, then look at the different stuff. And all you got to remember is that all food will be available, but there are some foods you don't desire to eat. Okay. Just reading what's going on in the chat room here. You know, the nice part about it is because of the way they worked it out, there are leaders, but the consortium is led by a council of 12. And with that council, they have one member that is chosen as a spokesperson at the beginning of each session. Quite often they do it in a very funny fashion. Okay, where it comes to a session with the consortium, they literally, as they're coming in, they draw lots. And the one that wins for that day is charged with what humans would call the Speaker of the House. And all he is charged with is to make certain that the communication lines keep moving, that people get a chance to talk. You know, this is where it gets to be very complicated for some people. But the consortium does not have a leader per se in the Grand Council. Okay, now here's where you look at it. If you think about it, you've got three sets of 12. When they have a massive decision that's got to be made, they'll call the Grand Council in, which means every member of the council, all 36 members. Now, bear in mind, this is 36 members of the council. There are 2,600 member species. 2,500, sorry. Apparently, there's now 26. Bear in mind, these guys are still expanding. You won't see 2,600 species around Earth. Okay, it's just not safe for them. So what you end up with is, in the case of a massive policy change or a massive shift in the way that the consortium is operating, they will call all 36 members in. Now, in the event that there is a locked decision, okay, if a decision has to be made with 36 members, you could have a very simple issue, okay, where you get a deadlock house. And I forget what it's called, okay, when the whole thing is just absolutely balanced. In that event, they will turn to the planet most centralized in the affected area, and they will choose one member, usually the leader of their country, of their world, to come in and sit in on the council to provide the tiebreaker. Okay, hopefully this is making sense, guys. Lord knows I'm doing my best with it. Now, when you start looking at the other side of the consortium, how do the people get elected? Well, first and foremost, anybody can apply to be on the council. But here's the qualifier. You have to have zero prejudice against or favoritism against or for any other species at all. Okay, you've got to be basing your decisions on the logical outcome. And yeah, there are species that run into a problem because they're very emotionally based and therefore don't tend to stick to rational decisions. This is not to say that emotions are frowned upon. Quite the contrary. But any member species can apply to have a member of their population become a member of the council. But it only happens once the world is accepted into the Galactic Consortium. Okay, now the first rule is absolutely zero prejudice, no favoritism, no bribery, no amount of any of that. Yeah, and that's exactly the point there, Joe. But Joe's just saying once fall arrives, okay, it may pick up. Now here's the thing to be aware of. Okay, according to the calendar I work with, September 21st is the first day of the fall. But the reality is they take a lot, the consortium looks at it and goes, well, we're going to go on the consortium clock. By the way, animals know when fall comes. That's how you gauge it. I personally use the calendar to gauge it. I'm just making sure I don't miss something here. And again, guys, if you've got questions, absolutely pop them out. Okay, one of the things we got to look at when we look at the consortium itself. Okay, there are primary species that have been there for a very long time. Okay, and that is some of those species. The Zerzics started it. The reticulans did come into it down the road, but obviously these are member species. What you've got to realize is if we take the guidelines for what they're doing, it may well work out very beneficially. And the good news is that, Joe, much as I have problems with the Talon are not a bad group of people. Okay, I have problems, not their own. Not them personally, necessarily. Now, what do we got here? Yeah. LA goes, my own gauge for fall is the way that light falls on the trees and on the trees and land because it probably casts a soft golden look. Being partially colorblind, I run into a bit of a problem. So I just said, scrap it. As a matter of fact, I wonder if it says it. Yeah, I know, I'm limping. My left leg isn't working quite right. No, I've got to check that. The way I see it is this. I don't track time well to start with. So I simply look at fall. and go when the calendar says that's when fall is. That's when I go with it. Makes it easier for me. Okay, but when we are now, of course, when we're looking at on the ground, you look at what planet you're on, and you listen to the laws of the governing community. In consortium space, you still follow the law, but you follow consortium law. Okay, now, the other thing we got to remember is when we watch what the consortium is up to, okay, and you compare it to the way that humans across the world are dealing with things, it may be wise to take a look at a new approach. Okay, because the sad reality of it is that people are not paying as much attention as they probably should, as would probably be wise. Okay, now, and right now, I'm still working on things with the consortium. It's great because it's all laid out. And this is why I'm repatterning my entire office. Okay, where I'm eliminating the clutter that I don't require. Okay, there are things that don't fit, and they'll be dealt with as things go on. But when you're looking at this world, okay, the consortium is pretty laid out in a very logical fashion. The only time that there are people that if you go in and apply for a job, within the consortium, they will take a look at you. And yes, some species will get preferential electoral treatment or hiring treatment. For instance, take a whaling. Okay, they will not. William, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You take a whaling. Even if they want it, even if they desire. Okay, even if they desire to get a job working in the magma fields, the odds are they won't get it. Okay, but when you take a look and when you're looking at the magma fields, well, when you look at the different jobs, okay, we end up with an interesting little setup. Okay, people that are better equipped for it will get preferential hiring. If you want somebody working in the magma fields, okay, then you're very likely to get, like a holic is very likely to get the job because they are already comprised of fire. Okay, but it doesn't mean automatically. It does. I love when my eyes work like that. Okay, obviously I'm not going to read that. Okay, that word I don't know, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'll probably look it up later. When you're looking at the way they hire, they take a look at the qualifications. Sometimes natural ability becomes far more important than, but when that they take a look at it and go, this is the world that we work with. The biggest thing you got to remember is one person will not get hired because of the fact they know somebody. It doesn't happen that way. Carl, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I do trust your day has been going well. We're just looking right now in case you haven't been keeping up with employment in the consortium. Okay, I'm only gonna do this once. One thing is very important. A single word with a question mark will not help at all, William. I got no problem answering questions, but I gotta know what the question is. So when you're looking at trying to get a job inside the consortium, especially if you're going after a governmental position, how bizarre. I love things when we get stuff like that coming in. Thank you very much there, LA. I am quite willing to take questions that are a little off kilter. My problem is this. A simple question like compare and put a question mark doesn't give me anything to work with. Okay, and this is why we take a look at it, and why the moderators are here to go, this isn't going to help. If you've got questions, absolutely ask, but it's got to be a question that I can at least make sense of. Okay, now again, when we look at employment, you take a job in a government situation. Okay, you go after a job in government. You can get one, no problem. But if you take on a promotion, even in business, the thing that happens in a promotion is you get hired up. If you cannot do the job properly, okay, you will be asked to step down. Okay, and especially in government, if you're asked to step down, it is not considered shame. It's considered, oops, you weren't quite ready. Go back down, do the job you were doing, do your studying, come back and apply later, the door's still open. Oh. Yeah, I noticed that, but thank you, Carl. I didn't actually pick up honey today, but I have been going through a lot of water. Okay. I do appreciate the concern because you're right. The vocal cords are a bit of a scrambled mess today. When I'm done, I won't be talking much. Fortunately, most of my one child is sick, and that's not the fortunate part, but we won't have a lot of talking there. I am doing my best to keep this as a safe place, as an active place. Okay. And what we end up with is, because we do try and let everybody in, okay, as long as they're not causing a disruption. Okay. Disruption is not, by the way, it is not an issue. Oh. Where are we? Storm just turned around and pay attention to this, guys, because it does apply to newcomers and longtime members. Okay, Storm's just explained what happened to William. Now, William Graves, and I'm just reading exactly what Storm put in. William Graves has been permanently banned from this channel for repeated disruptive behavior. And the thing is, this is what I say, if you've got a question, absolutely ask. Now, some of you have probably seen Joe bring up information. He goes, this is what's going on. Understand, sharing positive experiences, which Joe's on the whole have been, is what positive perceptions is about. Okay, that's what it absolutely is about. And the reality of it is that some of the people that come here are literally looking at the area, at this stream, and going, maybe I can pick something up. Okay, hopefully I will find a way to make it more and more enjoyable, a little more interactive. That'd be really handy. Okay, but thus far, I think, I'm just looking back at what Carl was mentioning about how the voice box is. It's a little tight, but I'm not having trouble speaking. Tell you, a couple of days ago, that was another issue. I cannot believe we're actually, an hour and 15 in. We've got about 45 minutes left. Okay. Now, what we've got to look at, the consortium has a whole pile of things organized. Now, I've already mentioned if human society were to start taking some pages out of their book, you would find things run a lot more smoothly. I know this because I've seen it work. Okay. I do the same thing in my physical world. As a matter of fact, tonight I will start taking inventory to get a concrete list of what books I've got, what my concrete is. Yeah, the fact of the matter is, I'm just looking at LA. She's just, all LA is doing. The reason I'm reading this out loud, guys, is because some of the people, hey, happy birthday to your son there, Woo. Very happy birthday to the Munchkin. Okay. I'm curious if he has shown at 6 years old, I'm not holding my breath. I am curious if he has found something that he's personally drawn to in the way of what he really enjoys doing. I've seen some 6-year-olds go one way and others, but I'm very happy with a shout out for the birthday. I don't keep track of people's birthdays, but very definitely happy birthday to him. Hopefully you're getting some quality time with him while he's at it. He's more than welcome there, Woo. And again, Woo, and this goes out to any one of you that has a kid. Oh, there we are. Derek, Derek likes doing artwork. This is great. Absolutely encourage him to carry on with it. I'll tell you, if I'd have been wise, I'd have done something with it when I was younger, which is why I'm personally looking at going back to school to learn. I'm great with the stick man that fell down the stairs into the carburetor, but not great at much else. I'm going to run out of water, and that's not a problem. But I'm making a lot of headway in a lot of things, but the consortium, because of the way they organize things and the way they put limits in, one of the neat things that I do find is if you organize things properly and you clear the junk and the clutter out of the way, all of a sudden things start. It may happen like that. It may take a little while, and then all of a sudden you get a jump. But what you will find happen is the world does turn in your favor. Okay, that you do start creating what you're looking for. One of the biggest things that I encourage you guys, I'm doing this myself, before the end of, and I'm giving you the heads up on this, before the end of 2024, get a list of 12 things together to accomplish before the end of 2025. I had a list, it failed miserably. I'm going to do another list this year. But I will tell you, the more clutter that's removed, the more smoothly the energy runs, okay, and the more relaxed you're going to end up becoming. You know, the thing is, in positive perceptions, I like the idea of celebrating things like somebody's birthday, somebody gets a new promotion, or goes and graduates. Something that is a positive endeavor. I ended up with one guy coming on here a while back, and all he did was said, I managed to buy my new car today. Managed to finance it. This is positive news. This is the sort of thing, and that reminds me, but I'll start that tomorrow. Because I'm going to pull together a number of I'm going to scrap that, you'll figure it out. I actually made the mistake. I made the mistake of going, I'm going to make this happen. I have learned that I definitely have things I'd like to see grow, but my mouth gets ahead of me on occasion. This is why I say, if you've got a question, absolutely ask. Okay? I make no bones about it. We have had problems in the past. The consortium has problems. Now, here's the funny thing with the consortium. You create too much of a problem in space, they just pop you in the airlock and out you go. Problem solved. Okay? In all fairness, that's a little overstated, because the two most common places to drop a problem child in the consortium area, okay, in consortium controlled space, they have a couple of things. First, they've got work that gets done in man hours. Second, crime rate is at a very low level. Okay, and the reason it's at a low level is because they arrest somebody for doing something wrong. For instance, even on their end, because of the way they run it, smuggling is illegal. But they will do this. Okay, depending on the issue, and I've seen it done. If you're smuggling stuff and it's creating a problem for society, okay, then number one, when the consortium finds out about it, they got a simple rule. Okay, you've now been caught, you've been taught, no, you've proven that you're going to smuggle. So, this is consortium controlled space. No smuggling here. And if you get caught the second time, you get tossed into one of two places. You either get tossed into the kitchen, not to work, but to become part of the meal processing, or you get tossed into the fusion reactor. Okay, again, not to work, but to feed the vehicle. Okay, yes, some people will end up with a bit of a problem. Some innocents do get caught, get caught in the crossfire. But what they found was you don't have to house the truly guilty. Okay, now, what do we got here? No. Sorry, I should do that this way. Woo Rider is asking, is there a galactic consortium in each galaxy? The answer is no. But they do have, and the reason for that is this. Every galaxy that is a member, that has a member species in it, or more to the point, every planet that has a member species on it, has a relay station for it's a interactive holographic relay. Okay, and I'll have to look up really what that is in my notes. Okay, what it boils down to is you've got a problem for the consortium. The Grand Council sits on the flagship. Okay, well, no, that's not true. They sit on their homeworld, which is nowhere near Sol. Okay, but every planet that has a member species on it has what would amount to a computer uplink to be able to put the questions in. But you got to understand, unlike human technology, it does not take time for the signal to travel from one end of the world to the other, from one end of consortium controlled space to the other. They have figured out, they've got technology that works in real time. Okay, because time and space work differently than what humans are aware of. So, if you've got a problem, your spokesperson steps up to the podium, as it were, to the relay station, contacts they contact we'll try English. They contact the Grand Council and go, I've got a problem we've got to sort out. It will get scheduled in. Okay. And then everything falls into place. Now, every species has a governing council. It's just not they're just not direct spokespeople for the consortium. Hopefully that makes sense, Will. And by the way, thank you for putting that question in all caps. For me, that makes it so much easier to find it. Now I have been asked how you can become a member. Well, first and foremost, you're not, how you can become a member of the council. Well, here's the thing. Humans are not members of the consortium as of yet. They are being watched, and in time, I'm guessing that it could be as much as 100 to 150 years. Because first things first, you have to have a one world government. Okay? Until that happens, no human has even a shot at getting onto the council. Not because they're not decent people, but because they've got to prove themselves in the galactic field that they are still not prejudiced. Okay. Now, you don't necessarily have to be able to speak everybody's language. Okay. But you do have to be able to work with them. The other thing that we find is that, I get asked by a lot of people, why, how you make contact with these guys. I'm not the one that sets it up. In 61 years, I've set it up for one person. Okay. Only one person in 61 years. And, that worked out really well. But it's not like I have that kind of pull there. And I see LA is waving at us again. This is always nice. Everybody wave back to LA and to LA Moon. But one of the things I do find, okay, is when I was going to do something I forgot, and hopefully somebody can remember. I mentioned I was going to look into something before the end of this stream, and frankly, I forgot what it was. So somebody around, because I said it in the first 5 or 10 minutes, that much I remember. But if somebody remembers, that'd be great. Just give me a little bit of a nudge and let me know. When we look at the way the consortium is handled, much of what goes on there can be replicated on any planet. Okay. Now, I'm one of the few people I know that only follows 3 laws. Be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Okay. Those 3 laws, compare them to the ones you follow. And I do feel you'll find that all of yours will fit inside those 3. If you find one that doesn't, absolutely let me know. I'm still looking for the one that derails it. Okay. Now, that said, Okay, we have, first and foremost, there is this idea that everybody is literally, everybody is literally equal in the face of consortium law. Okay, you can be 5 years old, you can be 50. Who you know, how much time you put in, what you do for a living, who you sleep with, who you're related to, none of it matters. They look at the law and they go, "This is the law. You broke it." Well, they were too young, they were too naive, they didn't know better. Newsflash: the parents or the guardians are responsible for educating. Okay, now do understand something. Two very big factors regarding the legal system. Number one, no one carries the burden of another individual for breaking the law. Okay, when you take a look, if an 8-year-old murders, okay, the 8-year-old will do the time. Which, by the way, the time amounts to, okay, you've been arrested, you're now in local holding for a month. That's how much time you have to lodge an appeal. Okay, at the end of that month, if the appeal fails, then you're terminated. Boy, that was quick, wasn't it? Okay, there's no such thing as death row. Okay, they look at it and go, you got arrested. The law says you're going to be punished by death. That means your lawyer can now, and a lawyer, by the way, is not a profession. I know that sounds weird. And I mean, there are lawyers that aren't professional, but you can ask anybody to appeal your case. Anybody at all. If you want, as a 15-year-old, if you desire an 8-year-old to defend you and to appeal the problem, absolutely go ahead. Okay, couple of things from now. I wish I could give you a real clear answer on that. Wu is going, how would a person stop a negative alien contact from reoccurring multiple times? Any advice? Well, we're not going to go with the hide. Doesn't work. But I will tell you this. The best thing you can do is try and make when you're being taken. Okay. Try and strike up a conversation. Ask questions. The more intellectual inference you have, okay, even if you're not speaking their language, the more you show intelligence and focus, the more likely you are to have that negative interaction turn around. Now, on that, and I will come back. Don't go away, Wu, because I will come back and give you the rest of that. But I just ran out of water there. So I will be right back. And we are back. Now, where are we? 30 minutes. Perfect. And now, whoa, as I was saying, this applies to all of you people. Okay. As I was saying, when you're looking at negative interaction, the more cognitive thought process you put in, the more focused you can remain. And I know having a negative interaction is absolutely going to be a nightmare. Lord knows I've had enough of my own. Okay, but the more composed you are, the more likely you are to get through to them. Because, and this is something that is taught in the consortium. I gotta check. I think it was Rachel that came in early. Oh, son of a beehive. That one gets dominant focus. Apparently. I'm going to grab the fan. Yep.
This thing's really sensitive.
Okay,
I'm sure it's slightly less sensitive.
I agree. Wholeheartedly. Okay, that should help. Sorry guys, fire alarms get dominant control and dominant consideration. Renee, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I was just actually checking to see if it was Rachel that was in here earlier. But if I did miss you, welcome aboard. Okay, back down to there. Now, the more focused you can be, the more rational you can be. They are teaching the various different races about the issue of abductions. Because do understand, not every race is aware, is really, if you will, cognizant of the impact of what they're doing when it comes to abductions and research. Yeah, absolutely, LA. We've got a really sensitive fire alarm, smoke alarm, and you can get the temperature too high. And I don't mean flames. I mean just the temperature gets too high, the dang thing will go off. But way more important for it to go off a little early than to not go off at all. There are times when you can be involved doing things, and when, thanks so much, Sir Joe. Really appreciate that. When we take a look at fire alarms, you can get involved doing things that take a lot of concentration or are extremely enjoyable. And the fact is, a fire alarm goes off, it's a mood killer. You're leaving the building or burning to death. Take your pick. Which reminds me, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, nobody did, but not really. I have a bug out file. I just got to double check with somebody to make sure I've got it filled out right. LA goes, until I learned to cook really well, it was a call for meals. Yeah. You got two. I'm the same way. I used to have it this way. It's either raw or burnt. Works great. It's a lousy way of doing it, by the way, and this is why I am endeavoring to learn how to cook. And or more to the point, endeavoring to teach myself how to cook. Come to think of it, I should see if I've got the ingredients for that. But, it's a lot of, there's a lot to it. Fire alarms are one of those technologies that are really important in this world and everybody else's world. It's kind of like when you're in outer space. Somebody tells you if an alarm goes off that says you've got a breach in the airlock, you might want to get it fixed. It may be important. I remember years ago, I was still married at the time, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get this bang, 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 bang on the window. Now, our main bedroom was on the main floor, right? So we're laying there, and I open my eye. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I open my eyes up, and I says, "Keep your pants on, I'm coming." Guy yells through the window, "Your house is on fire." I says, "Fine, I'll get my pants on." I turned around and I shook my wife's shoulder. I said, "Dear, you might want to get up." And she goes, "Why? What's up?" I says, "Oh, the fine house is on fire." I'll tell you, she came out of bed in one heck of a hurry. We get outside and we're getting the fire under control. And I looked at the cop because it was a cop that woke me up. And he goes, I says, "You know what really sets me off about this whole fire?" He goes, "Oh, I don't know, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody set your house on fire while you're in it." I said, "No." I said, "Technically, it's not my house." But I said, he says, "No." I said, "No. But the genius never bothered telling me ahead of time so I could get the wieners out of the freezer." And he looks at me and he goes, "You're kidding." I said, "No." I said, "It's a waste of a perfectly good fire." He says, in 20 years of working on the force, I have never heard somebody put their food ahead of the house. I said, "Well, the house is already there. The food's over there. I don't see the problem." We were all fine. I just don't panic where it comes to fire. Apparently very much at all. But where it comes to abductions, okay, the consortium is doing its best to teach the various races that no, at least, they're doing it on all worlds, by the way. They literally have classes to teach abduction protocol in order to give them the best move possible. Well, that was sort of my thought, LA. I couldn't see the point in getting overly panicked. But no, now what I'm looking at now. The consortium is a wonderful place. You got a lot of opportunity. But make the most of the opportunity we have here. It's funny, Joe. I was talking to you the other day, and you're more than welcome. I was talking to you a couple of weeks back, I think. I know it was talking to you. It's a time thing I have a problem with. And you really don't understand, and most people don't, how much that kind of news is so much better than, oh, such and such a president-elect is doing against the world, or what this war is building to, who ripped off who. This is all negative information. Yes, positive things come out of it, but I am far more interested in the type of news that people have. I mean, we had a chock full of it tonight comparatively. We had your event there, Joe, and we had Woo Rider's birthday. The other day we had somebody, it was Renee's birthday. These sorts of things absolutely deserve acknowledgement. Okay. And there are a couple of things I'm going to be starting. I've had to really look at things because I know my mouth goes into gear before my brain really catches up. Okay. And with this in mind, there are changes that have to take place. Okay, there are changes that absolutely have to take place. And we've got to get things moving. One of the biggest problems that we're looking at in today's world is pretty simple. Okay, the biggest problem is people are so focused on how to do a one-up on somebody else, what to be afraid of, how to make the best deal. Well, here's the thing. The best deal, and I watch people with this where it comes to groceries. Okay, people go, oh, there's a sale on at this store. And at the other end of the world, there's this store that has the beans are on sale for 50 cents. The other side of the city, you've got pancake mix on for $1. On the third end of the city, hamburgers going at $4 a pound. Okay, and people go, let's go from building to building to get the sale. Problem is, you spend more in gas and effort than going to 3 different stores than you do in thinking things through properly, as in effectively. But with the consortium, they are trying to teach 2,500 different species. Now, remember, on Earth, I can think of right offhand, you got Caucasian, Chinese, Oriental, you've got Middle Eastern, you've got African, okay, right there. Oh, and then you've got North American Indian. You've got 5 races out of 1 species. So just think, 2,500 member species. The reticulans that I'm aware of have approximately 15 different races that I know of. So if you look at that, you're looking at 2,500 member species. Calculate it all out. You may have, if you've got 2,500, you probably got 10,000 different races. Yeah. And this is the thing. This is that thought process. LA's going, I might do that. Go to several stores, but I calculate all the cost and storms. I love when I can't quite read a word, but that's not your fault, it's mine. Oh, and Storm's indignation. If you calculate the cost in, to your own efforts, this is a critical factor. And sometimes it works. If I've got several places I've got to go in a day, I will work out my travel plan to do it in one loop, so I don't double back a lot. The consortium is teaching people how to do an abduction safely, okay, with minimal impact, based on the tools the individual species has. Okay, understand, the species do not get new technology to go and do abductions. Okay, what they get is guidance. Okay, and this is why when we had that question the other day, just yesterday, I think, regarding how to handle finances, I look at what the individual has in finances of their own accord to work with, not what I figure they could use. Because I'll tell you, they could use a lot more. But it's a question of education. And this is why what I said I was going to have a video lesson up by the end of the month. Okay, by the 5th of October. I really should have thought things through. Am I working on the plan, on the Am I working on the course? Absolutely. The one thing I do have to point out is the more interest that people voice about different programs, the more likely they are to get completed in a hurry. Thank you very much, there, LA. We have just been told we're down to 13 minutes. Okay. Can you believe we've already gone through almost the 2 hours today? Okay. And I tell you, this cuts into a lot, a real hats off and a real pat on the back for LA Moon and Storm, because the hours that they're donating is phenomenal. Okay. If I had the money to do it, you can bet your bottom dollar I'd be paying a lot more. Frankly, I'm a firm believer they should be paid. I just unfortunately, and they already know this, I unfortunately don't have the income to deal with it. But what I will tell you is I've got a number of books on the go. And again, at the top of the stream, at the top of the chat room, you'll find a link to buy me a coffee at www, obviously, .buymeacoffee.com. I forgot the HTTP, but that's okay. Okay. / inner voice J will take you to the spot. It'll take you to the site where all of my books, all of the consulting, just straight donations, and new classes will be placed. Okay. With that in mind, something that's very important to me is the body of Return to Paradise, the third installment in the Elderbachian Chronicles, it's complete. I've got only 2 journal entries and 1 report left to write inside the story. Then we finish about 30 pages of final edit, and she goes to print. Okay. While I'm doing that, I've started putting the compendium together. Absolutely, you will, LA. The reality is this, guys. I'm building an empire. That's just the way it is. Joe Stewart was kind enough to point out to me that we've already gone global. Okay. But I figure I'm building an empire. Okay. And I know that sounds cocky as heck. But why not? I have no idea what happened there. I'm just not going to worry about it. Okay. One of the biggest things that I have found is this. When we are looking at success on my end, so many companies got to success with a lot of help. The owner of the company is pocketing millions, and the employees and the workers, the volunteer people, none of them are making any money. There's a problem in my eyes on this one, a very big problem. Now, I'm wondering, I might lose that. I just refreshed my YouTube here because I'm looking and going, nothing's been moving. Oh, there we go. My feed dropped on YouTube. But when I take a look at it, I figured out I don't have to have $1 million a month in my pocket. Okay. So with this in mind, as success comes in, I have every intention on adding to that. By the way, you remember that issue I said I was going to be giving to charity? Okay. This is one of those things I told you I was going to keep you posted on. Now, it wasn't much because I don't have a whole lot. Whoop. Let's bring this over here. I told you the other day how much money I started with in my charity bin. Okay. And what I ended up doing today, I know the person involved. Okay. So what I ended up doing today, I went out to get groceries. But there was a young lass there that I know she's physically challenged and on social assistance. Now, the fact is, I don't even have rent in the bank right now. But I told you the money that went into this bin would be going to charity. Okay. I've still got some money in there. About $15. But I did go out today and I turned around and bought this young lass enough food to last her for a couple of days. It wasn't top of the line food, but I took $12 out of my bank, which is why I'm pulling it out of the charity fund, in order to make sure that she had a meal. Okay, this is what I was referring to. About 100% of it was going to helping the people that are legitimately struggling. Okay, that's just the way I operate. Where did it go? I don't even know where my wallet went. Usually I'm sitting on it, but not in this case. There it is. So, when I get my next check in, a chunk of it will go into that bin. But, for the moment, I had to pull it back out because it actually went to a young lass that was struggling. Hope we are at the 5 minutes. That said, folks, okay, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Really appreciate it. Really happy with the good news that was brought forth. Absolutely tickled pink about that. Okay, now I will be back again tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow it'll be 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. PST. We will be back and continue on with the evolution of aliens as we know it. Until then,